Jeff. Bless us, Jeff.
The starting price tags to do really interesting things in space are hundreds of millions of dollars, going quickly to billions. But if we had reusable space vehicles, then we'd be able, that would start to change everything. And you'd find a generation later that you could have, you know, the two kids in their dorm room create the next great space company, and then you see thousands of space companies, and you'd eventually get to, you know, really amazing things going on.
So, how long is that going to take? And in the meantime,
well, I've been at it for 20 years now, so it's going to take a long time because building infrastructure takes a long time. So you have to build the road. Once you build the road, you need the right. Building the roads is not easy, but I know what the road is. The road is reusability. That's the first primary thing we have to do. We can't build these beautiful, giant, aerospace-grade pieces of hardware machined to great precision and then throw them away after one use. They sit there at the bottom of the ocean, and that's not the way to reduce cost.
So you've been working on this for 15 years, and now you are getting ready to be able to carry lower forward. And then
New Shepard, which is our Alan Shepard.
So for those of you who want to see his space capsule is downstairs. So it was great to see that with Jeff.
Ours is bigger. And Alan's is tiny, and it has a really small window. Ours is big and has giant windows. Alan would be like, whoa, that is luxe.
But so that, I think, shows people how hard this really is, because if you've been working on it this hard, and now obviously, but I think it's really interesting, what has the technology that was developed throughout the 60s and 70s made possible that wasn't possible then?
So much has changed. If you were to go back in time to the 60s and bring, you know, the great engineers from that era
Y'all all right,
to
fellas?
today,
Y'all have a safe night, fellas. Be blessed. God bless y'all. Love y'all, man. Yeah.
First and foremost amongst those is computation. I mean, what we can do with computers and software they could have only dreamed about. Same thing with...
I get love in my neighborhood. They put me above. I put them above too. Let's get that understood. Papa said him and Wayne was busy. They ain't how to explain it up. I was gonna drug when he was gonna get a game back. That'll be the same day when I get my diamond in that I give them back. I'm gonna get them in my teeth. I ain't gonna get them snatched. Whole snatch person, he persevered. I don't break the law. You hear your verses, but not your curses here. No profanity, please, Jeff. Bless.
Sensors, those things have just made gigantic progress. There are things that have made no progress, like high temperature alloys are basically the same as they were in the 60s. It's very interesting. But the way that we mill those things and weld those things and so on, that's changed very dramatically. We can make things in much less hand effort. You know,
Jeff said, I love it.
A lot of the manufacturing approaches have changed very dramatically. Some of the best.
Jeff said, I love affection, is correct. Jeff said, I love affection, he's correct. Jeff, bless. Bless up, Jeff.
Best ideas in rocketry were invented back then, and they haven't changed. Regenerative cooling, staging, and, you know, common bulkhead tanks, and so on and so on. So many brilliant people worked on the space program in the 60s.
That's Tommy Lee Jones
Davis,
baby. He
an amazing set of genius ideas that we're still using and harvesting today. But the details have changed a lot. One of the biggest things is not, you know, what's in the vehicle at the end, but is the design process now relies so much on computer simulation. You can do a lot of things on the computer today, and certainly all of the aerodynamics can be very finely tuned. You still do some wind tunnel tests to kind of anchor your computer models, but by and large, you can simulate very complicated vehicles in a very high quality way. Even now, one of the hardest computer simulation problems is combustion. Combustion is a very difficult problem to simulate. So inside the main
I gotta ask my grandma Peaches what I'm mixed with. I might be mixed with Indian or Caucasian. Diamonds all colors. My big faces are blue. I love all races. Word to my Benjamins. Press what and say I do. Say it again, baby. I do. Jeff, bless Jeff, my best man, the way.
Rocket engine inside the thrust chamber, you're combusting an oxidizer and a fuel, and that's a very violent reaction. It's very hard to simulate on a computer. We're even making progress on that, and so that really cuts down on the amount of iterations, the kind of test, fail, fix loops that you have to do, trial and error. They did so much trial and error back in the day to get all of this to work, and with slide rules. I mean, it's extraordinary what they accomplished, and the more you know about the Apollo program, the more amazed you become. It just keeps going. We're building New Glenn, which is a Saturn V class. It's about half the size of Saturn V class orbital vehicle, which will fly for the first time in 2021. We're doing it with a couple of thousand people, and that would have taken hundreds of thousands of people back in the 1960s. And that's the dramatic progress with the computer-aided design tools and so on that you see today. It's huge.
Hi, guys. Challenge that you're facing technologically with that?
Well, the hardest challenge technologically is the reusability, because that really does add, when you're talking about getting into Earth orbit, that is something that this planet's gravitational field is so strong that with chemical rocket engines, it's something that's just barely practical. If the New Glenn rocket weighs at liftoff with fuel just under 4 million pounds, and only a couple of percent of that ends up as payload in orbit. So most of it is, you've got just a couple percent payload. It's kind of a marginal thing to do, even with a staged rocket, much less a single-stage rocket. And so with chemical propellants, we can just barely get into Earth orbit. It's almost like God set this problem up as achievable, but just barely. If we had, a gravitational field twice Earth's gravitational field, it really would be intractable. And if it were half Earth's gravitational field, it would be easy. And so it's right there. It's that tantalizing point. And so we figured out way back in the middle 20th century how to do that, but making it reusable in a highly operable way, where you don't have to inspect between every flight and x-ray every component between every flight. Real reusability, like a commercial airliner. Or I'd settle even for a military fighter, which is, has much more maintenance than a commercial airliner, but is still a real reusable vehicle. That's the kind of thing we need to really change the game. And that's technically challenging, because reusability comes with extra mass or decreased performance. If you have inside a turbo pump which pressurizes the fuel and oxidizer to get it into the thrust chamber of a rocket engine, you have these high-speed spinning components, turbines and pumps, and those turbines have to be maintained below a certain temperature to have reusability. If you get them too hot, they're going to stop being reusable. And when you decrease the temperature flowing across the turbine, you lower the efficiency. And so because the whole thing is so on the margin of being possible, even in an expendable configuration, when you start making it reusable, you've got to add landing legs. That adds weight. You've got to add landing propellant. That adds weight. So all of these things, that's the real challenge. Then if you're talking bigger picture, the second big challenge is after you get to the moon, we have to organize and build the technology to get propellants and resources from the moon. We can't continue to lift everything from the Earth. So that'll be the next phase. But the first thing we know what we need, the first gate we have to go through is low-cost launch.
So that's New Glenn.
Yes.
And that's going to go to low Earth orbit.
That's right.
And
it's also can do translunar to do moon missions and so on. So it's a large general purpose vehicle to do deep space missions as well as commercial missions, satellite payloads, and so on.
And so then, when you unveil Blue Moon, how does that all fit together? And what are we going to do on the moon when we...
Well, so we know things about the moon now that we didn't know back in the Apollo days. Even just 20 years ago, we didn't know. We know for sure now that there is water on the moon in the form of ice in the permanently shadowed craters on the poles. The moon has a very small axial tilt relative to the plane of the sun. So when it doesn't, we don't, like on the Earth, because we're tilted so much, you get on the poles 6 months of daylight and then the other pole is dark for 6 months and so on. That doesn't happen on the moon. The poles of the moon are continuously in sunlight on the peaks of the craters. And then in the bottoms of the craters, they're permanently shadowed all year long. And as a result, they're very, very cold at the bottom of those craters. And volatiles like water can stay in a frozen form, hundreds of degrees below zero. And we can harvest that ice and use it to make hydrogen and oxygen, which are rocket propellants, high-performance rocket propellants. That's why our Blue Moon is powered by a BE-7 engine, which is hydrogen and oxygen. And the reason we chose those propellants, A, they're the highest performing propellants, but B, we know one day we'll be refueling that vehicle on the surface of the moon from propellants made on the moon from that water ice.
Okay. And so,
I gotta walk back to the store to pay my red light.
so that's the technological challenge.
Yeah.
What's the hardest thing, sort of on the human side?
So there are reasons. I'd say one of them is just that the time scales, because we are working on deep infrastructure, and so deep infrastructure takes a long time to build, and the pipeline is really long. And so as a human, it'd be fun to see the results of your work sooner. It's like, it's hard enough, to make a Hollywood movie. You start.
Yeah, I had to put a little
and then
extra
3 years later, the movie's finished. And then 2 years after that, it makes it to the theaters. That's like 5 years. But the kinds of things we're working on have, 15, 20-year kinds of time frames. And that's very, very challenging.
Okay, I'm going to go pay him. I'll be careful.
Probably some with more resources and more money.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay.
Things build on top of each other. And so there's only so much you can do. But that's organizational challenge. You need to select the right people who believe passionately in the idea, who are willing to think long term, who know that God knows how to price his goods. This is hard, and it's supposed to be hard. And I heard somewhere that we do these things because they're hard.
But so, if you, one of the things we've talked about a lot today is, we set a goal in the 60s, we achieved that goal, and then the question of short-term thinking, changing the mission, how do we get the goal together now to galvanize
and that's
people
one way in which government has become much harder than what I face with Blue Origin, because it is very challenging. A lot of the big government programs get very protected by members of Congress. I don't know. I assume if I were a senior official at NASA, I would be very frustrated from time to time, because your senior, Charlie, don't say a word, but he's smiling. Let the record reflect. And because you're taking an engineering mentality to an engineering problem, and that requires consistency of purpose. You can't start and stop. You can't change direction halfway. And so to the degree that big NASA programs become seen as jobs programs, and that they have to be distributed to the right states where the right senators live and so on, that is going to change the objective. And now your objective is not to, whatever it is, to get a man to the moon or a woman to the moon, but instead to get a woman to the moon while preserving X number of jobs in my district. That is a complexifier, and not a healthy one, because, by the way, as jobs programs go, all the people NASA employs and the contractors and so on, they're like highly trained, highly sought after, brilliant engineers. They can get jobs anywhere. And so it also happens to be the wrong kind of jobs program for the wrong kind of people. But that is part of the reality. They didn't have that back in 1961 and 1962. They were moving fast. They were, from the time of that Rice speech, I don't know the exact, but I'm thinking probably they were letting contracts, actually finished contracts within a year of that Rice speech. Unbelievable. I know that the Grumman, there were 9 competitors for the lunar lander, and Grumman won. The RFP was released, and then it was awarded to Grumman 6 months later. Today, there would be,
job programs, college funding, financial aid, welfare, SSI, disabilities, preserving, defending, protecting faithfully to the best of my abilities and knowledge. When Prime Minister Daddy, when President family, and Vice President family, work in the office universe. Be blessed, you heard it here first. Job programs take us away and bless us. Bless us.
3 protests, and the losers would sue the federal government because they didn't win.
And this is a place that's dedicated to public service, okay? So we're not going to.
And so that it's very interesting, but the thing that slows things down is procurement. It's become the bigger bottleneck than the technology, which I know for a fact for all the well-meaning people at NASA is frustrating.
It's a conversation, okay?
I'm sorry, did I say something involved? I'm so sorry.
But I guess you could also say that, we had 4% of the federal budget was going to space, and that there were 400,000 people working on it, and they strategically gave those contracts to spread support. So I guess that's also part of the way you have to do it.
And it was seen as a national security initiative. It was.
But now
that's the echo of silence. Meditation, so appropriate in my private time, my life private. I fly private. Ooh, Jeff Goley was blaster. Jeff.
Now you signed up to work with government.
Yeah.
So what can government do that business can't do? I mean, I think business, like you said, can now set a goal and do it efficiently.
So there are a lot of things. First of all, the tools that we use at Blue Origin, we're standing on the shoulders of giants. When I talk about those, simulation tools that we use, the computer design tools, the computational fluid dynamics tools that let us do aero simulations of aerodynamics, those were all created and validated by NASA painstakingly over the last 5 decades. And so that is, without those tools, we couldn't do anything. And so there's already, just that is a gigantic leg up. And so, the things that that NASA is going to successfully continue to do are the things that are really hard and that no company can do. The timeline is too long. There's so many of these things, but hypersonic point-to-point travel might be, doing R&D into that kind of thing. nuclear power in space. If you want to do deep space missions, you need nuclear power. All the science missions, there's no commercial motive to do science missions. That's for pure science and learning and research and understanding our universe. And all those things I think are worthy goals. And they have to be done by either government or nonprofit organizations. But the scale of some of these things, if you look at the big space telescopes that NASA puts out, these are multi-billion-dollar, $4, $5, $6 billion. These are big programs that really are. It has to be government. Nobody's going to do those things other than the government. And so I happen to think that's really, really valuable. What you hate to see is the start and stop, and the log jams that get put in place that slow things down on procurement. But the government has a significant role. You can't. It's going to be difficult to put humans on the moon with.
Can I bless you with 3 brand new face masks for $1? Can you bless me with $1 for 3 brand new face masks? If I could bless you with them, they're brand new.
$1?
Yes, ma'am, they're brand new. They aren't stolen or anything.
Okay. I don't think I got it. I don't got it.
Say it again.
I don't got it.
Oh, could you buy me something for $40?
Huh?
Could you swipe and buy me something for $40 if you could?
I don't know. Okay.
Government support. It's expensive. We need government facilities to do it. We need government know-how to do it. It has to be a team effort. It'll be many companies, not just Blue Origin. It'll be collaborative. And in fact, I doubt it will even just be the US government. The Japanese are interested. Your alma mater. The Japanese are interested. And so are the Europeans. And the Europeans have, I think, a really smart idea about building a lunar village on one of the poles of the moon, probably the South Pole. So there's a lot of activity, and I think people, what I really hope is that we stick with going back to the moon, this time to stay, because that is actually the fastest way to get to Mars. It's the illusion that you can skip a step. Skipping steps slows you down. It's seductive but wrong. And the military that has a great saying, slow is smooth and smooth is fast. And in this case, go to the moon. Get yourself set up there. Mine propellants there. Build a fuel depot there. It takes 24 times less energy to lift a pound off the moon than it does to lift a pound off the Earth. So if you're going to need a lot of supplies and fuel and bulk materials to go to Mars, you're much better lifting them off the moon than you are lifting them off the Earth. It's a gigantic lever. And so that's really, again, it's people, there's the one internet meme that goes around is, why should we go to the moon? We've already done that.
The last roller that I bought was real stale, and both of them were stale.
One thing I was talking to my 19-year-old son, who's, he's a digital native and very brilliant, and I was talking to him about some topic, it doesn't matter what it was, and he said, oh no, Dad, you have to understand, the internet is a nuanced destruction machine.
Could I get a speeder
as a platform, and it's so fast. If you Twitter cannot handle nuance, and so everything gets kind of de-nuanced on the internet. And everybody in this room, and if you're a leader of any kind, you need to fight that. You're not going to fight it on the internet. But I was talking to your daughter earlier. She's writing a book that can have nuance, and we need to continue to have a civilization where we don't just fight on Twitter. My son said this other thing.
You want me to pump your gas, baby? You want me to pump your gas? Y'all want to smoke some weed? Y'all want to smoke some weed? Okay, God bless y'all. Be safe, okay? Be safe, baby. Be safe, man. Be safe, sir. Take me away, Joe. That's why I said all I do is again. And I did.
He said, if you really want your meat on the internet to go far and travel fast, eliminate all nuance in it, add conflict. And I was like, that's true and discouraging. Thank you.
Yeah. Not that much time left, but love to hear you, I mean, I think the audience would really love to hear you talk about, we've talked about the moon, we've talked about all the things we can do out there. But I think there's also, we're doing it.
Jeff got it in a body bag, man. He got the most cash on him, man. 200 billion plus, man. Give it up for him, y'all. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for him, you guys. Jeff, I'm blessed. Thank God.
Why did you choose the name Blue Origin?
Yeah.
And what is, why are we doing this?
Yes, thank you for asking that. I think this is a really important question. It's called Blue Origin because this is the blue planet, and this is the planet that we have to save. This is the good planet in our solar system. We've sent robotic probes to all the planets now. This is the only good one. And we are now, for all of human history except very recently, we have been small. We humans, as a species, we have been small and the planet has been big. That's not true anymore. In the last 50 years, that has changed. And we all recognize that. And so we have to choose if we want. We have this long line. My life is better than my grandparents' life was. Their life was better than their grandparents' life was. And we all want our grandkids' lives to be better than ours. And we want their grandkids' lives to be better than theirs. That's called progress. And we have been enjoying it for centuries. We want to keep enjoying it. And to do that, we're going to have to go out into the solar system where we have, for all practical purposes, unlimited resources, unlimited energy, unlimited material resources. And we can move, and this isn't going to happen in our lifetimes, but we will move all heavy industry off Earth, all polluting industry will move off Earth, zoned residential. And people, we will keep this planet as this remarkable oasis in this harsh solar system that it is. And by the way, we'll move all of this industry to space primarily because it'll be better. You have 24/7 solar power out there. You don't have nighttime to interfere with your solar arrays. You have in the asteroids and on the moon and other near-Earth objects and so on, you have so many resources. And we will make, imagine why make the microprocessors here? Make the microprocessors in space and you can send them down, little finished components. So we really do have to protect this planet. It's the only good one in the solar system. And we can't at our scale if we're going to continue to make progress and make...
But if it's finite, my grind tight. My money ain't, but my bank account so tight. But about tight, I don't mean low. My income high, it's the highest. I gross the most. I'm the flyest, getting ghosts to July, but I ain't gonna never leave. I'm always in sight. I'm on TV every day, y'all. Where the F could I go to? I tell Jeff, it's a blessing to know you. It's a blessing to know you, Jeff. I love you too, my sis. I'm enjoying your daddy and mama and mommy and papi and papa and daddy. Pops! Jeff, take me away, Jeff. We're gonna do it to death, babe.
Sure that our descendants have better lives than us. We need to go to space. It's not optional. There are people who haven't figured it out yet, but they're wrong, or they just haven't thought about it yet. We have to do this.
Well, I think talking about Earth is a great way to end, and we're here because we're so inspired by your vision of the future, and all that you've done. And so, since the Kennedy Library is about connecting the past and the future, you're a perfect spokesperson. And I also have a present for you that is here. It's I think the fact that you've named your rockets New Glenn and Shepard shows that you are, as you said, standing on the shoulders of giants. And I was lucky enough as a child to meet them. And my father, when we were all on the plane together, wrote this note that says, "For Caroline." And then it's signed by John Glenn, Alan Shepard, and Gus Grissom. And so it's something that I've treasured, and I have a copy here, facsimile, that I wanted to give to you because I think they're your heroes too, even though I know we're not allowed to use that word today. Thank you so much.
John Glenn says here, best regards to Carolyn, and next time I'll try to bring the monkey.
I was actually really disappointed when I met them because I really wanted to see the monkey that had gone up in space. Which is what my mother had told me about. So,
oh my God.
Why not New Ham?
I love that. Right, New Ham. That sounds great. Good. Ham was the name of the monkey.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh my God.
Okay. Right. Well, thank you all for coming. It'll be a very small vehicle for New Ham. Okay, thank you.
Carol. Oh, is Michael going to come up? Oh, yeah. Michael's going to come up.
Could I ask all of you to take a seat while we ask Mike Collins and Jack and Tatiana Schlossberg to come up for a photo with Carolyn Kennedy and Jeff Bezos. And as they do, join me to thank them again for their inspiration and leadership.
We're calling our mission Inspiration 4. It's the first all-civilian mission to space. And given that significance of that first, we're trying to be credible.
I'm out of space.